Call to order the work session for the town of Chincoteague for March 18th, 2021. If we could all please stand for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, just ask you, Lord, to look over everybody here at this meeting tonight, Lord. May we govern, Lord, to your will, Lord. Also, Lord, I'd like to say a prayer for all the folks in the path of these terrible storms, Lord, that have been gripping the coast over the last 48 hours, Lord. Just pray for those folks, Lord, that have been affected, Lord, and that you keep everybody safe, Lord. Lord, please protect and look out for our frontline workers, Lord, our police, our EMS, Lord, and all these things we pray in Jesus' heavenly name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seeing no public comment, have we got any letters to be
No,
read?
sir. We do not.
All right, moving on. I'll entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So move.
Second. Motion properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Rush, you're up.
All right. So again, with the state of emergency, again, or as of 10 a.m. this morning. As of tomorrow, the 19th of March, we will have been, our original state of emergency went into effect 19th of March last year. So we've been really dealing with this for just a little over a year now, because we had a couple days before. And then we were out for just a little while and back in. So we are officially over the 1-year hump at COVID. So everybody deserves a round of applause, from the elected officials all the way, essentially the citizens and the businesses. They did a really good job up to this point. We've all learned a lot. So we're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel that doesn't look like a train anymore. So as we move forward, let's hope we can keep getting positive. So in Virginia, since I gave you your report on Monday, these are the new numbers. Not a whole lot of change there. The one thing I will point out is the state, the 7-day moving average positivity rate, 5.5%, which is up 0.1% from Monday. But if you look at that overall, we're really starting to move in the right direction. We were as low as 5.2%, 5.5%, and we're going to see that little bit of fluctuation as we continue to move forward. But certainly that's what we're looking for. Accomack County, since Monday, 8 additional cases, 2 additional hospitalizations, 2 additional deaths. And then in Northampton County, you'll see that they had no new cases, no new hospitalizations, but once again, they took away a death. 35 was reported on Monday. We're back to 34 again. I'm guessing that once they went through the numbers, that one of those 2 that were added in Accomack County probably came from that number. It's probably more likely. So in Chincoteague, since Monday, we've had 2 additional cases, which again is a little bit more than we've been seeing the last couple weeks. And I think we've had 4 in the last week and a half, but certainly nothing to be concerned about, something that we should be expecting as we continue to move forward. No different than the flu or anything like that when we start talking about numbers like this. And as you can see, 10 additional folks have been tested since Monday as well. So what now? So phase 1B continues. I know we're probably a little tired of hearing phase 1B, but we're really getting robust in 1B right now as far as getting those vaccinations out. 1C is beginning here on the shore now. So I gave you that PSA that was being sent out by the health department, and 1C will begin. And in 1C, we see energy, water, wastewater, waste removal, information technologies, finance, even construction workers, food service, media, communications, legal services. So again, a lot more folks are going to be getting vaccinated in this 1C effort. So we're really starting to see a move forward. Now, what happens with all these additional folks throughout the Commonwealth when they begin vaccination? Do we get in a situation like 1B? Certainly that's something to be concerned about. But next week, VDH has told us there's going to be 500,000 doses coming to Virginia. 74,000 of those are coming to the eastern region. So, and again, you got to think the eastern region is not just the eastern shore, it's Norfolk, Ports, all those areas, but still, that's a pretty good number. Variant, the B1117 is the UK version. Right now, there's 3 of those reported in the eastern region, and then the South African version, there are 4 in the eastern region. So not a lot of that, but again, caution because those variants do spread, according to their research, a little bit more easily, but no more dangerous than the original SARS virus. So in yesterday's numbers from VDH, you can see the vaccination program is really starting to get started here with your different age groups. You can see the younger age groups obviously don't have as many because they've not been targeted. It's your upper age groups that have been targeted. With those, you can see that there's quite a few first doses out there, and again, quite a few second doses. So they think, and again, a lot of the research and data supports this, that more vaccines will be rolling out. As more vaccines roll out, more people will get shots in arms. So all those numbers, that's what that means there. So we're starting to see that wheels falling off the bus lag of 1B. The wheels are back on the bus, and now we're just trying to get it back up to speed throughout the Commonwealth. The spread, again, if you look at the graph up there, the original seasonality spread, which we saw in that January timeframe that went back and caught the holidays, and then on into the first part of February, we're starting to come out of that. The big concern now is that variant spread at the bottom as we move on into March, April, and even into the summer. The variant spread is kind of what the concern is now moving forward. And again, those 2 variants, and then the P1 variant that you see listed there in the bottom part of that paragraph, that one's coming out of the Brazil area. So, could be an issue, but nothing locally or even within the Commonwealth for that one at this point in time. So the big thing now is to get shots in arms, and that race to get those shots in arms. But what will the variant do to that? More than likely, as we get those shots out, they'll have the opportunity to then figure out what's working with the variant, go back and remodify. So as we move into vaccination next year, because again, this is going to be just like a flu shot from here on out, they'll be able to make it adaptive to what the variants are. So again, things are looking up. So masks are still going to be required. That's not something that's going away anytime soon. Again, folks that are concerned about getting vaccinated can call that 877-829-4682, 7 days a week. Get on the list. I know a lot of the local health clinics and stuff now are getting more and more vaccines, so they're trying to get their folks in. So certainly moving forward. Current restrictions with the 10 inside, 25 outside gatherings and the other things that we see going on right now are still in effect until the 31st of March. However, the governor has announced that with the upcoming graduation season, he's going to increase capacities on outdoor venues to 5,000 people or 30% of the venue space. So again, it might not be the full venue space, but it'll be more than what we saw last year, more than we've seen since before COVID started. Indoor capacities will be 500 or 30% of the venue capacity. With that being said, again, speculation, but following what's been happening through the last year, I really think that some of the current restrictions will be further eased as long as the numbers stay in that positivity range that we like to see. I think we won't see a perfect scenario, but I certainly think it'll become more and more palatable as we move forward. And I do believe with that April 1, we should see some more capacities increase. Not perfect, but again, moving in the right direction. So in summary, response, mitigation, and recovery. The positivity rate is flattening, and I use flattening because we were on the downward slope. Get a little rise, and we'll see a rise, but we'll see a fall. So hopefully if we can just keep it in that flat 5.2 to 5.7 range. That would be, pretty good for right now until we can get it even further down. The variant still, we need to remain cautious with that. PPE supplies locally are still, we're doing really well with that now. 1B is continuing, and then we're moving into the 1C here on the eastern shore. So, next slide, please. And again, wash your hands, wear a mask, watch our distance, keep the circle small, don't go out when sick, and get vaccinated if you have the opportunity. And again, we'll keep moving in the right direction. Any questions?
It's all good.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's hard to believe it's been a year. Ooh. All right, next on the agenda is Mr. Talbert with the consideration of the rates and fees.
Gentlemen, you all have in your package the rates and fees that we charge this year. It's been pointed out to me that I did not increase the transient occupancy tax rate as went into effect on January 1st. It's listed in your packet as 4%. It is in fact 5% and has been since January 1st. So that is the only correction I see so far on that, not to say that there are not more there. The one rate or fee that jumps out at us, and when you look at the budget, is our trash collection, which at $2 a week is a bargain. I did some informal polling, and it's the cheapest rate that I found. That's, I think the town manager at Hancock told me I think they're $11 a month, or considerably less than that. So. It is time, I think, since we do not collect enough in that fee to pay for the sanitation contract that we currently have, to raise that slightly modestly in order to get that particular account more in balance. I would propose a 25% per week fee, increase in the fee. That would be $13 a year. We currently have 3,723 customers. 3,723 at that rate, and that would produce an extra $48,000 a year, which should cover the contract and also give us some room for future increases. Right now, the contract is a 5-year contract. It's up in June 30th of 2023. The contract covers the expenses for the contractor, his profit, as well as the tipping fees in effect at the time the contract was signed. As tipping fees are increased, we incur additional charges on that contract. I think everyone realizes that tipping fees aren't going to become any lower. The county's policy is that they do charge municipalities if there is a contractor bringing refuse to the dump or to the landfill, then they will charge the municipality a tipping fee. If we show up in our own vehicle with a town seal on the side, we are not charged a fee. And yes, we did ask the question, if we bought our own trash trucks and started over there, could we get all our tipping fees for free? And the answer came back, they would probably change their policy in that case. So, and we certainly understand that. In any event, my understanding is from the county that they're fixing to construct a new cell at the North Landfill. It's a $3 million project. When they put out that outlay for a new cell, I don't see them reducing tipping fees. I see them going up in the next few years. So this minor or modest increase of 25 cents certainly looks like it would cover us for the next few years, and we wouldn't have to do this every year for a while. And that is my recommendation, and I'll entertain any questions on that.
No questions?
I mean, you want to hear any kind of increase, but that is so modest, and it's just to make, we're not gaining nothing, we're just breaking even point.
Paying for the contract.
Yeah, we're just paying for the service. And
I might also add, and I should probably show you this, I prepared a little spreadsheet of what actually, blow it up here for you. This is the budgeted revenue and actual collections and the budgeted expense and actual expense for the last 5 or 6 years. See that in most of that case, we run a deficit in revenue and we run a deficit in the expense. Our expenses are higher and our revenue is a little bit lower. So it's been marginal for several years now. And increasing the fee now, hopefully, yes, it is more than we currently need to meet the contract, but hopefully as prices go up, we won't have to keep doing this and hitting people for a couple cents every year just to cover the account.
So what would the cent, well, I guess it would it be 20 cents, or what would it be to meet the,
My to just meet it,
just meet it?
it would be down in the order of about 10 cents, I believe. $0.10 gives you another almost $20,000 a
I mean,
year.
like, it's not like you say you can't come back, I mean, it's another meeting. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not like you can't come back to it.
And I'm certainly open to anything you suggest.
You get where I'm coming from.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to pass something and say, oh, well, we need this, and we're really over, because like I say, it's just another meeting, it's another 10-minute discussion. Me personally would rather do it to meet it. It doesn't hurt 95% of the people, however, there is people that are, I take my word for it, I'm saying that are stretched. I mean, I'd rather defend it in a sense saying that we had to do it to meet it. I might be the only one who feels that way.
I would concur with that. Yeah, I'll make the motion to that effect. I'll make the motion that we increase to the 10 cent to meet the current deficit.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of raising the solid waste collection fee by 10 cents per week, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, thank y'all. Moving on. And just for the public, that's it, as far as raising any fees. And if you care to look at all the fees we have, that's saying something if we're not raising fees. I mean, we're keeping everything, you know, when you talk to people on the street or when you're down at the harbor, we're cheap. Our harbor rates are cheap. Our water, you know, our water is cheap. Our trash collection is definitely cheap.
Then you can drink the water.
And you can drink the water. So I think the town staff is doing an excellent job keeping costs down and passing it on to the taxpayers. All righty, moving it on to our budget. We're at the first of the budget reviews.
Okay, just to review, draft two is merely a few minor changes that were suggested at the Budget and Personnel Committee last time, as well as a few things that I saw that looked reasonable enough to do. I'll hit those quickly. You'll see I neglected to put on $1,200 a year that we had for leasing the Matthews property for hunting. Yes, very minor, but it was neglected to put in the revenue, so we did increase that. I do have a solid waste fee in here that I will correct right now. Give me just a second. That number will actually be Okay. So that change is officially made. So the increase for solid waste collection fee has been made at 10%, or 10 cents, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 10 cents.
10 cents, 10 cents, which brings revenue under that count to $406,552. Down at in the harbor fund, I made a small correction there because I did have an incorrect number in there for the 25% match, which was off about $1,000. So that number's been corrected. I believe that's all the corrections in revenues. In general government, under the next tab, we removed, after Monday's meeting, we removed the pony penning expense of $13,000. And I also reconsidered the retiree payout that I had put in there before, and that was specifically to pay retirees for the balance of leave they still had on the books. Don't think there's any changes to the next several tabs. There is, that change was reflected at the harbor under expense for the proper amount for the 25% balance of the grant that we applied for. There is no change to the trial A. Now, if we go to the summary page, you will see that expenses still exceed revenues by $196,000 and change. The general fund, and I want to back up here just a second. There are 4 basic funds. There's actually 5, but one of them we don't really keep a balance on. There are 4 basic funds: a general fund, the harbor fund, trolley fund, and water fund within the town. All these funds need to balance revenues and expenses inside of each fund. So we should see zeros in those columns at the bottom there. Revenues over expenses should be 0. In order to balance them and have a balanced budget moving forward. Right now, our overall, including all 4 funds, we're out of balance by $196,000. But if you look, we have a surplus in water and we have a deficit of $335,000 in the general fund. It has, of course, there's only 2 ways to balance these. Inequities, and that is to either increase revenues or decrease expenses. I have been through expenses multiple times this week looking for mistakes. I've had our finance director check for mistakes. We don't see any thing that's not carried through from one sheet to another. So we think that the math is correct and the logic of the spreadsheets is correct. So it leads us down to increasing or cutting. I will draw your attention along those lines back to the revenue tab, which is the first one on your sheet there. I've also got it on the screen here now. To go back through some of the assumptions that were made. The big cuts on the revenue tab, the first one is the meals tax. It was budgeted last year at $1.1 million. I don't think, and I'll put the trend projections back up on screen in just a second that I showed you last time in the budget and personnel, but I don't think we will quite make that budget projection, but we are going to be fairly close. By the same token, if you go down a few lines to transient occupancy tax, it was budgeted last year at $1,290,000. I think, according to the trends that I'm projecting, we will meet that and more. So, given that, I'd like to go ahead and show you my projections for those two items. Give me just a second to pull it up. Okay, if we look at meals tax trends, and again, I'll blow this up so it's easily readable from the screen. If we look at meals tax trends, the fiscal years 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 are on this chart by month, and those are the collections in each month. If you look at the bottom, you'll see the total collections for each, and these are not budget numbers, these are actual collections. If you look at the totals at the bottom for each fiscal year. Moving over all the way to the right in 2021, you'll see black numbers through the end of February. Those are actual collections. The red numbers below that are my projections for each month. I simply took a trend of how we were trending, how the numbers were trending based on our budget number, and made a projection with basically a reduction in percentage from the average percentage that we were trending down. So you'll see that my projection for March, April, May, and June are about 75%, I believe, of what our last regular year in 2019 of those same months. If you look at the total red number at the very bottom there, I'm projecting that our meals tax will total $1,038,000. Okay, it was budgeted at $1.1 million. So as you can see, we're going to be about $62,000 short of our budget projection for this year, which, considering what we've done and what the restaurants have had to go through to stay open and everything, is amazing to me, because the restaurants that I have been in that do any kind of inside business at all are effectively at 50%. And that number to me is absolutely amazing from what we've been through. But still $62,000 short of our budget projection for meals tax. Now I'll show you transient occupancy. Again, the same sort of chart. It's for the last 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 for the last 6 fiscal years. And you can see these are, again, actual collections. If you look at the bottom number in red there is my projection right here, is my projection for meals tax this year. We were budgeted at $1.29 million. The projection shows we're going to be at 1.44. So, again, we're going to be okay with meals and transient this year. I've heard some talk that reservations are doing well this year from folks that are still in the business. So I'm hopeful that this year our transient occupancy and meals will still be good, including the shoulder seasons, which we seem to have been very good this year. So there may be some justification here, long story short, to bump the projections that I've currently done for revenues for transient occupancy and meals up a little bit and take care of some of the deficit right there in our budget for next year. And I'll move back to that spreadsheet.
That's what I'd like to see us do, is to bump that up to the 1.4 on TOT. And,
I think we'll cover that.
and 1 million on meals tax.
Yeah, shoot meals tax in the middle.
Shoot that one in the middle, and then take the TOT right back to 1.4, what it's gonna possibly project to come into.
And 1.4.
On the TOT.
Oh, 14, that's not good. There we go. All right, given those increases, we can now do the magic of Excel. Go down and take a look. Our total budget now shows a surplus of $13,000. We're still $125,000 out of balance in the general fund. Again, we would like to see each one of these funds, and I checked for the last several fiscal years, each one of these funds is balanced. The approved budget has been balanced in all 4 funds for the last several years, not only back 5 or 6 fiscal years, just to make sure that no one had done the unthinkable and done that. And no, they've all balanced 0-0. It's easy enough to take care of a surplus. The deficit's a little more trouble. I feel like $125,000 in the general fund is something that we can probably take care of, or that I can take care of in the office and make a staff recommendation with a little here and there, basically, looking at individual items here and there in the general fund, and we'll be able to account for that. I could make a staff recommendation if that's okay with everyone, or if you have specific things you'd like to see, well, I'll be glad to take a look at those right now. We'll plug them in and see what happens.
How about the money saved from the bond payoff?
That stays in the water fund, which is why we're showing a surplus.
Right.
Yes.
So that's how much is that a year?
That was $177,000 this year. We'll make the last payment in May, and then I pulled that 177 right from the budget this year, which is
So that's
why
a
we're
plus,
showing
that's a
over
plus that's
$100,000.
there. So
surplus.
you know what I mean? There's, yeah.
But
Yeah,
you're gonna try to escrow some of that for future.
Yes,
repayment.
and in order to make that fund show a balanced budget, we will probably do some capital improvements to the water system, as well as escrow put some of it in our water reserves to show a 0 balance in this year's budget for that. What the object here is not to be using one fund to balance another. So we would not necessarily take money, a surplus from one account, and use it to apply to a deficit in another fund.
So my quick question, when you did the staffing change, when we had the promotion with Keller, so we eliminated the position?
Yes, sir.
When you did that. So did the position elimination come from the water side, or did it come from general government side?
Yes. And not to be smart, but we eliminated a position, and that position, as you probably know, 50% of that position was assigned to the water department.
Right.
And the other 50%, I think, Kelly's back there telling me right now, I'm sure, 25% went to one and 25% went to the other, but it stayed both in the general fund. We applied that savings to the water department, if I'm not mistaken.
So my thinking is that it's the same amount of work, no matter who's doing it.
Yes.
That 50% should go back to the water department for one of those folks, or, you know.
But that's correct. And what we did is we were dividing the responsibilities for the water department billing
Right.
amongst 2 other folks.
Right.
And the savings went back to them. In other words, I took each one of those folks, and the 50% that was in the billing position before, I assigned 25% to the one clerk and 25% to the other clerk
Okay.
at their rates.
Okay.
And that's why we realized the savings. I think the savings we realized was in the neighborhood of 45, something in that nature.
So can we put that back in the water department?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
I
So
believe
that-
it already is.
It already is.
I'll-
Okay,
but
that
I'll
was my
check.
question. That was my question, because I was gonna say that could be part of our
I'm-
deficit.
I'm pretty sure we did that, but yes,
Okay.
I'll check on that.
All right.
Would it be also smart, that has nothing to do with the budget, would we also be smart to double up on the payments on the metering system?
And that's another bond.
Right,
It's a
you
different
understand what I'm
bond.
saying, you pay it off, and that's not, nobody wants to pay off stuff faster, but you get what I'm saying?
Right.
And,
And that would basically be a capital improvement, because that system's listed under capital
It is. I
improvements.
mean, so do you-
And that bond payment's listed under capital improvement. So
that would certainly get us to the zeros and also that's a bond we get, a debt to get off of us. If that makes any sense.
Yes, sir.
Maybe what we do with that is we accrue for it, but we actually pay it in the latter half of 21 or
Oh,
20.
absolutely.
Make sure that we get through COVID and
Oh,
everything.
absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
true.
I mean,
Right.
you gotta have that back door.
Well,
You don't be stupid. But like you
Yeah, I'd
said-
like to see, you kind of look at it again now that we've added the revenues back in and see what you come up with after we've just added these revenues back in, as far as trying to make things balance out.
Got it, it's right here.
No, I mean, but as far as trying to tweak it even more.
Oh,
I'd like to see what, what you as staff can, this is my personal opinion, I'd like to see what y'all can do to tweak it out even more. Because you're trying to get that one fund in check, right? That's the whole
Uh-huh.
goal. I mean, it's, I'd rather see what y'all got versus us
I got you,
trying to
yep.
beat it up right now.
Well, we'll sharpen our pencil on a few things, we'll go back and reevaluate some things, and, if we're down to a reasonable number, which I think we're almost there now, we'll see how much of that we can get out just by sharpening our pencil, maybe redefining. We already, in case you didn't know it or didn't realize it, but the general government already charges the water department a substantial administration fee on an annual basis. And by substantial, I mean $100,000. Comes from the water department to general government just for, you can call it lease for the property, you can call it a bunch of things, but, so we don't, in my opinion, need that to be any larger. I would like to see us build our water reserves. That's a basic service. It's literally the blood of life.
That's the one thing we have to provide our people.
And it needs to be, and as Councilman McComb said a while ago, you can drink the water, and I've done some traveling, and I gotta tell you, this is the best tasting water anywhere around, and I've been coast to coast and in separate countries. I'll take Shinnecock's water over any of it, including the bottled stuff. But I'd like to see us certainly keep our reserves adequate, and Harvey still has some capital improvement projects planned for the water department. Maybe we can check a few of those off. Doubling the bond payment's an excellent idea, and get that off of us a little sooner. We'll look into that and see if there'll be any penalty for anticipating the loan.
How about that? Well, you're talking water, we have a high pressure line and a regular line, right? We have two lines coming across?
Yes.
Are both of those, have they both been assessed and are both in good shape, or?
One of the bond that we're just getting rid of, or that we're just paying off now, is my understanding, the original payment, or the original project for that was slip lining one of those lines. And that was, I don't know, you may remember, Mr. Mayor, but several years, I want to say 10 to 15 years
That
ago.
was before my time. I've been there 12 years.
Okay, but that bond was issued directly for that project. But yes, the other line, I think there's, the 8-inch line is, I don't know how much it's used. I'd have to defer to Harvey on that. But it could stand probably some assessment.
Yeah, I think that would be a handy thing to look into, because we want to make sure we've got a backup as well. I mean, I know when we shut the water tower down, we were using, I think, the high pressure line, if I'm not mistaken. We want to make sure that we could run on that if we need be. Because that other line almost has got to be close to
Yeah.
35, 40 years old now, the
Mhm.
green line. Is it how, that's what, we're hitting at least probably 40 years on that.
I'm sure. The large line is not that old, but the original one is, I'm sure. Now, they have been, and I'm sure most of you have sailed under these bridges before, they have been professionally encapsulated, insulated and encapsulated, and I check that every time, and I'm under there several times a year, and I'm gonna tell you that it still looks very good. The contractor they had to do that job did a very good job. Other than seeing one fisherman that anchored to it, or tied off to it a couple years ago, I've been pleasantly surprised.
Mike, one question, the transfer to the harbor, because I know some years we don't do it, and this year it's 42,000. What is that exactly?
That is a transfer from the general fund of basically our 25% match to the VPA grant.
Okay,
So that's our share.
okay,
That comes right out of the general fund.
okay.
At some point, the harbor's gonna be making that all by themselves.
Yeah. Well, so,
And it will, the direction we're going, because Vernon does an excellent job.
he does that.
And at some point, we won't have to transfer that from the general fund.
All right, well, we've given them something to do.
He was looking for something to do.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 minutes on his hands.
Not to say that I ever doze off or anything, but yeah, we don't mind more things to do.
Oh, Lord. Well, I will say we are well ahead of the ballgame compared to what we have been in the past.
Well, I too want to say that, I didn't do this from scratch. Years of work have gone into these spreadsheets. Yes, I kind of tuned them up and made them my own, for better or worse. But there's been years of work gone into these from managers and staff in the past, and I just kind of took it over and started with it. So if I had to create them all from scratch, we would be here for a while.
Yep, we are standing on their backs and their shoulders. All righty. So, you'll have another draft to budget personnel at next month?
The next time we're together, and unless you would like to schedule a separate budget meeting, and I'll be glad to do that, the next time we're together probably would be the first meeting in the April's regular meeting, if you want to do it at a regular meeting, or we can defer to the budget and personnel, which would be the same week.
I would do it at budget personnel first, so we can just, tweak it a little bit, and then you can bring it back to another workshop and tweak it some more, but,
And hopefully by then have it ready to
Yeah.
publish.
yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
All righty, next on the agenda is announcements. Starting to my left, Mr. J, got anything?
Don't have anything.
All righty, Mr. Gene Wayne?
Hi, Miss Allen, we miss you. Lord be willing to see you in April, here. Paris for dinner, family.
Thank you. I concur. Other than that, I'm good. All right, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Nothing this time.
All righty, I appreciate it, y'all. Nothing for me except roll tide. We're doing good this year, baseball, softball, basketball too.
Basketball too, you're in tournament.
Basketball too, tell me about it.
Can you get a motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor?
I'll make
I
a motion
hadn't,
to adjourn.
yeah, I hadn't done that yet.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mike, you're getting ahead of me, buddy.